Hello and welcome, our dear viewers, to RTD's News English Edition. As usual, we begin tonight's news with the major and top highlights. Let's follow. The Ministry of Health visited the Section 5 for the distribution of the LLNS, the Ministry of Health. And on the international scene in Ukraine, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres arrived in Kiev. Those were our major top highlights. Our blood viewers, welcome back to our newsroom. To mark this day of April 25th, dedicated to the global fight against malaria, the Ministry of Health, Dr. Ahmed Roble, moved to the 5th district in the commune of Bul'os, where a vast door-to-door campaign of distribution of long-lasting insect-treated mosquito nets, which is also known in short as LLIN, is taking place indeed. The Ministry of Health launched this vast distribution campaign in the commune of Bul'os and Razdika by mobilizing several teams that are supported by a large number of community leaders and relays in charge of sensitizing the population. During his visit, the Ministry of Health was keen to encourage all the teams deployed in the field and engaged in this vast campaign of distribution of impregnated mosquito nets. The Ministry of Health also congratulated the work of the health communities and community relays who are conducting awareness-raising activities in their neighborhoods on the importance of the preventative use of impregnated mosquito nets, which provide protection against malaria to all families and inhabitants of the targeted communes. It is therefore thus through its door-to-door strategy that this mass distribution campaign aims to equip each manage which disintegrate mosquito nets, thus offering them an effective and sustainable means of protection and provision against the bites of mosquitoes that are vectors of malaria. In his speech on the occasion of the World Malaria Day, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmed Robli, highlighted the huge efforts as well as the preventive and curative means implemented in the national strategy to fight malaria, which has become endemic in our country. The new ferry named Muhammad Ali Gadeli arrived yesterday on the board ship named BBC Shaterna at the old port of PAID. This morning, the delegation composed of the Minister of Transport, Mr. Hassan Muhammad Ibrahim, accompanied by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, in the presence of the Japanese ambassador to Djibouti, they went to the port to visit the arrival of this new ferry that will serve the north. The Director of Maritime Affairs, Mr. Ali Mirah Shahim Dawood, explained to the delegation that this ferry will accompany hundreds of passengers and dozens of cars. The new ferry will strengthen the maritime link between Djibouti and the northern cities of the country by increasing the frequency of services, even during the period of strong wind from the west called Khamsin. This new ferry has a length of 49.95 meters, a width of 11 meters, and can reach a maximum speed of 12 knots. The granting of the second ferry is a strong symbol of the strengthening of cooperation between Djibouti and Japan, which is palpable in the many fields of cooperation between the two countries. The Ministry of the Interior communicates that the 2 days on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr will be public holidays, non-working and paid. In collaboration with the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity as well as the National Agency for Disabled Persons, which is also known in short as ANPH. The political advisor, Mr. Shen Shah, the economic and commercial advisor, president of the Association of Chinese Enterprises in Djibouti, as well as the representatives of the Chinese enterprises attended the ceremony of the distribution of the foodstuff of the month of Ramadan in favor of the local inhabitants of Bokol Djibouti City. More than 880 food packages were distributed. Chinese companies, in order to honor its social responsibility, have been constantly contributing to the needy Djiboutian people by distributing food during the blessed month of Ramadan for years. The Chinese companies that contributed to this event are China Merchant Holdings Djibouti, China Civil Engineering Construction, Civil Construction Corporation Djibouti, China Railway Construction Electrification Bureau Group, China Harbor Engineering and Djibouti Branch, and Djibouti Shermical SAS. The new mayor of the city, Mr. Saeed Dawood, has made yesterday evening his second outing of direct contact with his fellow citizens. He went on foot from the city hall to the Place Mahmoud Harbi and Minilik and the first district and the neighboring businesses of the city center, accompanied by these members of his newly appointed cabinet. Indeed, the mayor of the city met with local traders downtown in Djiboutians who are preparing to celebrate the Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr, beautiful and fruitful exchange took place between the new mayor and his fellow citizens. Their grievances were noted. He stressed that he takes note of the requirements and concerns that may have issued in order to work together to make our city shine. In the conclusion of the tour in the capital, the mayor of the city of Djibouti and his teams of the town hall went in the mythical soul of the city center, where he met the street vendors, the small businesses, the informal workers, the bus and cab drivers, as well as the stalls, consistent in ravishment between the city hall and the Djiboutian for a mutual proximity. As we are seeing the footages of the new mayor who visited the city. On the occasion, on the 26th day of the blessed month of Ramadan, the management of the Sectoral Center for Vocational Training in Transport and Logistics and Transport organized this Wednesday, April 27, 2022, within the SFCF OPTL collective iftar in an atmosphere so special and friendly. This collective iftar became over the years a ritual, a tradition, a culture has brought together in an atmosphere of fraternity and friendliness. The management of CSFOPTL, its administrative and technical staff, its trainees, school officials, but also many guests, namely the parents of students, the management committee, the neighborhood council, and friends. Also present were the director of EFATF Mr. Dugesh Awlad Dugesh and the head of service of ETFP, Mr. Mahmoud Aden. This holy month where we get closer to Allah is also an opportunity to gather as a family during the breaking of the fast. After the collective prayer, the Dean of the Center, Mr. Usman and Sheikh Abdullah made a preaching on the benefits of the month of Ramadan, with this blessing, collective strength in unity as well as forgiveness. The history of the Prophet Musa were asked during this collective iftar in order to award the winners. In his speech, the director, Mr. Muhammad Al-Dush, thanked all the participants as well as the staff who organized this collective iftar. For his part, the DATFP Director Mr. Dugesh congratulated the director of CSFOPTL for his dynamism in the quality of his work as well as his will to make modern and modular sexual center. Moreover, he did not fail to praise the atmosphere in friendliness and the better social climate established by the director. Finally, the DAETFP congratulated the organizing team of this collective fasting break. In the large meeting room of the Ministry of Islamic Affairs and Waqf's priority was held on Tuesday, April 26, 2022, a meeting to prepare the public places of the collective prayer of Eid al-Fitr. On Tuesday, 26th, an important meeting was held in the meeting room of the Ministry to discuss and prepare, chaired by the Director of Islamic Affairs. This meeting was attended by the Executive Secretary of the Supreme Council, senior officials of the Ministry of Muslim Affairs and Waqfs, including the Director of Administration and Finance, senior officials of the Secretary and Defense Forces of the country, and those of the Ministry of Decentralization. They discussed various topics concerning the preparation of the places distributed for the Eid prayer, including cleaning, spraying, setting off the spraying, the installation of electricity and lighting, and other necessary activities for the smooth conduct of the collective prayer of Eid. The prefect of the region, Mr. Musa Adam, offered a collective iftar to his staff yesterday, Wednesday, and 27th of the blessed month to share together a moment of communion and sharing with the prefecture. Were present at this iftar the second deputy of the prefect, Mr. Umar Idris Suge, the sub-prefecture of the locality of Ali Adde, Mr. Shaban. Once among their guests, everyone stretched their arms open to the sky and the cry Ameen in response to divine invocations recited by prominent ulama. At the call of the prayer in an almost religious silence, the officials and their guests proceeded collectively to the breaking of the fast of the day in the state of spirit, conviviality, and fraternity. A few minutes later, all the faithful performed the Maghrib prayer. Coinciding with the eve of the 27th day of Ramadan of 443 of the Muslim calendar took place a collective iftar in the regional service of education of Dakhil. The first of its kind in the education service of Dakhil was organized by the education officials of the region to show their willingness to break the fast in a common atmosphere and full of optimism, because it is indeed the month of forgiveness and prayers to have the blessing of Allah. All the officials invited to this iftar of breaking the fast were present with at their head the prefect of the region of Dakhil, Mr. Adan Darar Musa. It should also be recalled that the preaching of the night of destiny and those of good deeds of charity were not missing, and everything took place in a festive atmosphere full of brotherhood of good Muslims. The Medical Hospital of Tajarrah hosted yesterday the launch of several training sessions simultaneously on different topics. These trainings focused on exclusive breastfeeding from birth to 6 months and the introduction of infant feeding, monitoring the nutrition status of pregnant and lasting women, lunch under the supervision of the Chief Physician of the Health Region of Tajarrah, Mr. Dembio. The trainings related to the monitoring of the nutritional status of pregnant and lactating women and the promotion of hygiene of young mothers are intended for healthcare providers of the CMH of Tajarrah in order to deepen the knowledge of midwives, matrons, and nurses on the characteristics of a healthy diet and encourage them to adopt healthy behaviors in order to ensure a better health for future mothers. Concerning the training related to exclusive breastfeeding from birth is intended for the community relay and religious leader in order to promote and support exclusive breastfeeding and encourage more breastfeeding women. At the approach of the festival of the Eid al-Fitr, the gendarmeries of the Brigade of the District 6 and 7, in mission of the patrols of surveillance, intercepted with difficulty a minibus driving at high speed on the boulevard near the Napoleon shop and endangered the other road users. During the control, the gendarmeries noticed at first sight that the driver was in a state of advanced drunkenness. At the same time, they proceeded to search the minibus. The operation allowed the discovery of 20 cartons of alcohol on different brands intended for resale in prohibited areas, especially in working-class neighborhoods. The seized goods are in number of 124 bottles of alcohol composed of 56 bottles of vodka, 32 bottles of gin, 36 bottles of pastis, and half a carton of beer brand Amstel. Within the framework of this case, the gendarmeries questioned 6 people who are the real owners of these goods, possessing alleged drinking established in Section 1 and 2, which were preparing to sell them on the eve of the religious festival of Eid al-Fitr. This illicit trade constitutes a source of insecurity for the inhabitants of these districts. Given the seriousness of the facts, the people involved will be brought to justice to distribute to give them their legal activities. Shifting gears towards the international scene now to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who arrived in Ukraine on Wednesday, his first visit since the Russian invasion began on February 24, he announced on his Twitter account Wednesday. I arrived in Ukraine after visiting Moscow, he wrote, saying he wanted to continue our work to extend humanitarian support and ensure the evacuation of civilians from combat zones. Guterres is due to visit Irpin and Bucha on Thursday morning, the scene of abuses during the Russian occupation in March, before meeting former Minister Dmitry Kuleba and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. Well, by this, our beloved viewers, we conclude this edition. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to tune in later for more. Have a wonderful evening and take care. Thank you once again for joining.